Francesca Sipma is the founder and CEO of Hypno Breathwork and Mastery. She's also the author of Unblock Your Purpose, Breathwork, Intuition, and Flow State. She's the founder and CEO of Mastery and the creator of Hypno Breathwork. Francesca spent a decade at top ad agencies in New York City, leading global campaigns for brands like Google, Marriott, and Bacardi. After chasing an insatiable lifestyle, she embarked on a journey of self-discovery through Bali, India, and Peru, where she pioneered Hypno Breathwork, a revolutionary method that blends breathwork, hypnosis, and visualization to help high achievers break through subconscious blocks and access peak performance and purpose. Today, Francesca works with C-suite executives, top producers, celebrities, artists, and athletes, guiding them to live their purpose, take intuitive action, and create meaningful impact. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this week's episode on My Line Purpose Podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Crone, and I have special guests with us today, Francesca Sipma. Francesca, why don't you tell us, where are you calling in from today and what are you grateful for?
I am currently calling in from San Diego, and so many things I'm grateful for right now in this season. I think the number one would be finding some peace while I'm not hustling.
Amen. Peace. It's what we're all after, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
I have looked so much into your work, breath work, hypnotherapy, your mastery experience. I see you've got stuff happening overseas. I'm like, okay, I want to make this happen. I want to come to this training. This looks so cool. And this is a question I ask most guests on the show because the answer is always amazing and it's never one straight line. If we go back to, say, high school and you're about to graduate, and oftentimes I used to be a high school teacher and I saw all the stress, especially from teenage girls, to be like, I'm supposed to go to university or I'm supposed to be this or do that. And it's just a lot of stress for an 18-year-old in general. But what was your experience when we flash back to there? Did you know that you'd be into breath work, that you'd be into hypnotherapy, that you'd be an entrepreneur, a speaker, an author? Or can you take us on the journey from where you were to where you are right now?
Wow, it's so interesting you're asking me this question because I'm actually working on a hypno breathwork session for a group of entrepreneurs next week. And in this session, it's taking them through their journey, and High School Self is the second song. So
Oh,
I'm very tapped into where I was and my state and kind of the things that were just running through my mind literally this morning. So it's a great question to start. When I graduated from high school and went to college, I knew I wanted to be in business and communications, but I had really big dreams of being in advertising. I
mm,
always wanted to move to New York City. I was really fascinated by marketing and branding, and I thought that it was a really glamorous lifestyle. There were a lot of movies around that time, if you remember, like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days
yeah.
and What Women Want. They were all
Mhm.
based on these careers in advertising, and I thought, oh my gosh, that looks fun, but also
Mm.
you're using creative skills and also you're getting to speak and communicate. So it just felt like a really good mix of my skill sets. So I was always really clear like on what my major and the city I wanted to live in and what that path was going to look like, but it definitely was not where I am now.
No, you're not New York City, that's for sure. And you've got all these like lush plants around you. I think of New York and I think of like concrete jungle.
There's definitely two sides of me. I did make those dreams come true in New York, and I worked at the top ad agencies on the biggest global brands, and it was a hustle and a grind to achieve those dreams. And I don't regret it one bit. I absolutely loved my time there. I think I had the best 20s of anybody you will ever meet.
Mm.
Towards the end of that, I just was no longer feeling fulfilled. Like my values had definitely changed. And I hadn't caught up to what that looked like yet because I was just running on autopilot, just chasing the promotion and the status and the significance, like a lot of us do when we get in one career path. And that's when I had the intuition or the feeling that I needed to leave, which was truly a really brutal breakup after a decade. But the other side of my personality is Bali. And that's where you see the plants. And
Mm.
just this part of me that Just loves that nature and being able to tune into myself and being surrounded by a more spiritual energy. And I think that what I've found that creates the most success is being able to combine those two things, is having drive, but also having a really insane intuition.
So I love Bali. Okay, so is Bali what led you to breath work? Like, how did you get here? Because actually, I'll share for a second.
Yeah, please.
I I did my leadership coach training in 2019. And when I was doing my leadership coach training, there was a supervisor in the coach training who was actually from San Diego. And she was doing a one-to-one session with me on the call. And she said, "Oh, yes, I'm also a breathwork facilitator. Have you heard of breathwork?" And I had done a decade ago, yoga teacher training. And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I know breathwork. I know that. I know pranayam." She was like, "No, this is something completely different." And she said, "Do you want to try a session?" And I said, "Okay." I'd never heard of breathwork until late 2019, early 2020. I do this one session with her, and it's over Zoom. And I experienced everything that they say could happen in breath work. I was hot, I was cold, I had the tetany, there was 5D visions, I was laughing, I was crying. And then I was hooked. And then obviously every breathwork session after that is never going to be the same. They're all going to be different. But that was my gateway into breathwork and what it could do for my body and my mind and releasing and receiving and all of the things. What's been your journey with it? How did you get into this work?
Yeah, I ended up going to Bali and going to a 7-day breathwork retreat. And very similar to you, I didn't really know what it was. I'd done some pranayama and yoga classes, but that's definitely not the type of style of breathwork that we teach. And I just became really fascinated by it. It was mind blowing. I had the
Mm.
same convulsing images, memories, lots of emotions coming up. But mostly I had clarity. And I think the interesting thing about my journeys and why I took breathwork in the direction that I did is because I became really self-aware of my behavior patterns. I would go in with very clear intentions, and then my breathwork would connect the dots on how I formed this identity.
Mm.
This defense mechanism came from? What was at the root or the source of this personality trait? Where did this relationship go south? What was my part in it? Where could I be accountable? And I just got a lot of clarity on my psychological patterns. And then I went on a obsessive journey discovering all the different styles of breath work and training with a lot of different facilitators and observing a lot of classes and workshops. And I just found that people had very cathartic experiences, but they didn't necessarily know how to integrate them to change their life. And so that's when I became really interested in hypnosis and hypnotherapy, because then you're really honing in and you're using vocal cues to find the limiting belief, to find the
Mhm.
subconscious block. And then you can start to rewire and reprogram it in real time. And then I was just always really in love with Dr. Joe Dispenza's work and being able to throw in the visioning at the end. Now you're unblocked. You've released a lot of the emotion, the anxiety, the grief, whatever has been lodged in your body for decades. You're reprogramming it to be a more expansive version of yourself. And then you're mentally rehearsing the goal, the next level, the book, the presentation, the company, the exit, whatever that looks like. And you're feeling it ahead of the event. And then we always guide you to take your next action step. And I just found that those were the most effective components of breathwork to me. And I really consolidated it into an efficient process that we call Hypno Breathwork. And it's 22 minutes. And yeah, for me, it's really being able to change behaviors that have been holding me back, or where I'm a version of myself that I don't like, when I'm too reactive, when I'm too triggered. Like, where's that coming from? How do I change that? How do I show up as a better human? And then how do I make my goals come true
Mm.
in parallel?
Wow, I love all of this. And I think what's going to be so helpful for everybody listening is that it shows that there's an opportunity to completely shift out of what is feeling limiting or heavy or not true to ourselves to where we want to go in, like you said, a matter of minutes, 22 minutes. Like that's not 10 years of therapy. That is really condensing the process. For the people who are listening and breath work and or hypnotherapy are like just totally new to them, what would you tell them about what is happening? What is actually happening on a physiological level that is allowing people to process these things through breathing? Because I can hear some people saying, "I'm breathing all day, every day," aren't I?
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So physiologically, what's happening when you do this specific style of breath work, which is circular connected to inhales in, one exhale out, is you are changing the balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide in your brain and body. And what that ends up doing is it starts to shut down the prefrontal cortex. That's your analytical mind. That's the overthinking, the indecision, the habitual thought loops. That's when we start to let the fear and the doubt override our intuition. So we're quieting down that part of the brain and we're starting to activate and stimulate different regions of the brain. And you're accessing deep theta states. And theta states are where your brain waves are more suggestible. That's when we bring in the hypnosis. What's happening is you're starting to find the memory, you're starting to find the root. Breathwork always finds the emotional charge, and then the hypnosis allows you to reprogram and rewire it. And when you get into your subconscious mind, this is the key. This is the key for change because your subconscious is the storehouse of all the information, the wisdom, the knowledge, any conversation you've had, anything that happened when you were 7 years old, 3 years old, 16 years old. It resides in your subconscious mind. And when we can find that root, when we
Mm.
can get to the source of it and we can use our exhales to breathe out any tension, any anxiety, any emotion, then we start to get these revelations, we get these breakthroughs, we get these aha moments, these clarity, like the light bulbs go off, and you're like, oh my God, that's why I treat my ex-boyfriend like shit because my dad said this to me. And then you have
Right.
awareness, and the awareness starts to dissipate the emotion. And now you're no longer living from your ego. You're no longer living in that defensive state. You're actually able to then visualize a healthy relationship, what it looks like if love is safety, what it looks like to be able to receive and be adored. You are actually changing biochemically. You're
Mm.
firing new neurons. And the more we do this consistently, the more we can start to change our external reality.
That's a pretty great explanation of what's happening. Yeah. And like really easy to absorb too, right? Sometimes I'm also a big lover of Dr. Joe Dispenza, and sometimes I will hear from, say, our clients, if I'm recommending his work, they're like, it's too complicated. I can't really break down what he's saying. And I think that it's important for teachers like yourself to be able to say, here's a really complex idea of what's happening in the body and in the brain. And here's what's really happening on a way that we can understand it. But I think more importantly, it's better experienced than explained anyway.
Yeah, I could talk for hours about the science behind it and share stories and testimonials, but until you're on the mat, when you close your eyes and you go into the cosmos or wherever you go, there's
Mm.
words that can describe what is happening to you mentally, physically, spiritually. And I love Dr. Joe's work as well. I went to actually a private retreat that he did, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago. And it was a very small group. It was like 40 of us. And we got to do a Q&A with him. And I asked him, why do you lead with meditation instead of breath work? I was like, I don't get it. I love meditation. I meditate every morning, but
Mm.
to me, breath work is a lot more effective. It's a lot more efficient, and it just gets people in the zone a
Mm.
lot faster. Where I hear all the time that people are so frustrated by meditation. They couldn't do it, they couldn't drop in, and then they just quit. Whereas
Right.
breath work, within minutes, something's happening. You are shaking, you are physically activated. There's vibrations, there's tingling, emotions are coming up. And he just said, we have to ease people in. And I was
Mm.
like, all right, you go your direction. I'm gonna go.
Do we?
Yeah, I was like, if I can get people's attention, if they're gonna show up to a class, I'm gonna try to give them the biggest experience to get them hooked. It's a consistent habit. Yeah, I think we can explain the breath, but you just have to have the courage and the openness to try a session. And the two of us, you'll be hooked pretty immediately.
Yeah, truly. And I've done quite a bit of breath work in the last 5 years since that first experience with this woman. And for the most part, 99% of the time, I've had experiences where I'm like, I got something out of it. And actually, my most recent breath work that I did, I shared with the facilitator afterwards that I was feeling in such a depleted place going into the breath work, feeling like completely burnt out, overworked myself, and it felt like too much effort to breathe. I couldn't keep up with the breathing. And I thought, okay, this is the one time that my body's saying, then just lay here. And it's interesting how even breathing conscious or not consciously, intentionally, breathing intentionally does take effort. It does lay down on the mat and be intentional about following the cycle. And then eventually you drop in and you don't even realize you're doing that. But sometimes there is effort required. Do you ever find that you hear from students that it's too much effort for them or they can't do it?
Yeah, and I'll be honest, like that's not for me. Like that's not for me to convince someone to prioritize themselves. It's not for me to have to make the case of why they need to do it. It's the same thing
Hmm.
as exercise. We all know that we should exercise 3 to 5 times a week. There's tons
Right.
of studies and research, and that's been going on for decades. And people still won't get up and do what's best for their health. So in that case, you have to have some self-motivation. You have to want better for yourself. And when you're ready, I'll meet you there.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. In the same way you wouldn't work out one time and expect to be physically fit, you wouldn't do breath
Mm.
work once and expect to be emotionally fit.
Yeah.
I think what's helped make it a consistent habit for me is my breath work is different to the more general styles that, I experienced in the beginning of my journey. Now, the majority of my breath work is on my business. There
Mm.
is nothing that I create in my business that didn't come from breath work.
I
So for
love that.
me, I'm getting into a flow state every single morning. I'm creating from my highest energy. I'm shifting my entire body to peak performance state, to seeing my business where I want it to go in 5 years, not where it is right now. And
Mm.
I am moving and operating and creating systems and strategies from that place. So it's very easy for me to motivate to do the breath. And because we've made it 20 minutes versus 60 minutes is how I grew up on or came up on breath work.
Yeah.
20 minutes is a lot more manageable. We use really upbeat music. You can actually breathe really slowly. Like it doesn't have to feel really intense. It can actually
Mm.
just be like almost like luxurious, like just doing slow inhales and then those exhales with the nice visualization and really ethereal music playing. And it can be like the part of your self-care that you look forward to every morning.
I love that. I wonder for everyone who is listening, you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, and you've created something that you really love and you're getting to share with thousands of people. What has been the most challenging piece, self-wise, identity-wise, not like tech or anything like that, but what's been the most challenging piece for you, the being coming up and growing this business?
Well, definitely at the beginning, I think everyone can relate to when you actually make the transition of having stability and security and the titles and the significance typically of corporate jobs and the biweekly paycheck. Having that security and then having to go off on your own without knowing where the money is
Mm.
going to come from or what the plan is, I think that leap is usually the hardest for people. And I think that's why breathwork was so powerful for me because I could see what I wanted to create. I could see the stages or the books or the courses, and I would get ideas and intuitions that would be so fun to create. And then I was really enjoying the process versus trying to control or worry so much about the outcome. And if I could just stay present with it and trust that my skills and my network and everything that I built to this point was going to come into fruition in a new way, then something magic was really being born. But
Mm.
there's levels to this. Like I did a lot of breath work on my money beliefs
Mhm.
and being financially responsible and what that looked like in the very beginning in order to monetize. And it really is equal parts strategy and systems and then intuition and spirituality. Like I'm never
Mhm.
going to be somebody that tells anyone to just go live in love and light. I think
Yeah.
that you need to have the skills and the training and the knowledge to build your business. But then there's all these things that come up along the way. Nobody shows up for your launch. Okay, now it's self-doubt. Now I'm getting my
Mm.
worth through validation. Okay, now I'm got to do my inner confidence, inner child breathwork sessions.
Yeah.
Or I found that once I moved through the identity and the money blocks, I had a very successful first 2 years of my coaching business. And then I launched Mastery, my wellness or my peak performance company, and working with investors trigger that little girl that
Mm.
didn't get the attention or the recognition or the consistency from my father and constantly needed to prove my worth. And I was overexerting myself and I was burning myself out and I was just trying to fill the pages of the investor updates and I was completely out of alignment. And then I needed to do deeper healing breathwork sessions and go back to Bali and get healers to work with me and do all these things because I was just so disconnected again. But now I feel like gotten back on my stride and I'm doing the things that are lighting me up and make me feel more creative. But there's just, you can't grow your business without growing yourself. Like you just have to do the inner work and that personal development in order to be the type of business owner that can hold the success that you desire.
If people take anything away from this episode, one thing away from this episode, that you cannot grow your business without growing yourself, without working on yourself. It's so true. I feel in my line purpose, there's myself and Kayla, and we are 50-50 coaches. We have been from day one. We started this company together. And I'm known as the mindset manifestation identity support, and Kayla is known as the system structure automation support. And oftentimes, when we meet women who come in and are looking to grow their business, they think that it's the tech, the funnels, the website, the whatever it is. And we're like, sure, maybe you do need an
Yeah.
updated website, but there has to be the part of you that believes that you're worthy of that, or that when you fix that, that then the people are going to come. But you can have all of the tech, all of the stuff in place, do the launch. But if you don't believe that you're worthy of receiving the payment or leading the people or holding yourself to a higher standard, it will never work.
It's
Yeah.
so true. And again, there's levels to it because most of the other people that have the courage to become an entrepreneur, that comes with really amazing skills. That comes with grit and perseverance and tenacity, resilience, and that's amazing. And if
Mm.
you have drive and hustle, it will get you somewhere.
Yeah.
You will have some success with it. And for me, I found that just plowing through things could get me to $1 million mark. If I just kept forcing and staying up, I could do that and maybe even do it easily. But
Mm.
I have a lot bigger dreams and a lot bigger goals than that. And that recently has come to the surface of things that really need to break down for my breakthrough. And a lot
Mm.
of it is things that you don't know are connected to business. It's how I treat people, it's my patience, it's my empathy, it's my compassion. It's like, why don't I have some of these things innately? What happened to me when I was younger that I don't trust people to delegate? It's those things and the need for control and the perfectionism that needed to come to light and come to the surface and be healed in order to scale a business. So
Mm.
it's not all tactics, it's not all strategy, it's truly your psychology and your inner work.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, talk to us about the book. You've got the book. Why don't you share a little bit about the process of that? And I'm sure that came to you through breathwork as well. And what's the vision for it?
Yeah, so the book was probably one of the most organic things I've created. It's called Unblock Your Purpose, and it's really methodology of how you can discover your purpose. And it's done in three parts. And the first one is through healing. It's through observing your relationships with your parents, where your beliefs and your worldviews and your paradigm came from, healing your inner child. And once you really become more aware of your patterns and you release some of that emotion, then we move into part two, and part two is about flow state and how breath work can really help you hack flow state and get into that zone where you're just effortlessly creating, ideas are connecting, you have more innovation, you have more energy, more vitality, and you start to connect your skills and the careers that you chose and the network and obstacles you've been through and how you can really turn that outward. And then part three is about being able to manifest the life that you truly desire. And to me, two things that really contribute to that are listening to your intuition and acting on it fiercely every
Mm.
single day, taking
Mm.
action on your intuition. And the second part of that is constantly checking with yourself to make sure your intention is pure and you're being of service. How are
Mm.
you contributing to something greater than yourself? So each chapter has stories, it has psychology, and then it has a complementary hypno breathwork session to help people go deeper and somatically release some of those emotions and get that clarity in those action steps.
Beautiful. I'm going to be ordering my copy,
Okay.
and I'm sure everyone listening will want to get a hands on their copy as well. What oftentimes I think that a book or a podcast, they get to be these pieces of like omnipresent marketing, right? You write the book once, you never know where it's going to end up or whose hands it's going to land in and what doors that will unlock for you. What are some of the big dreams and goals that you have around where this book can take you in your business?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I have the book, which was such a natural process. It was like I just felt called to write. I was channeling some messages. I put it on paper. I had the idea that I was going to self-publish. I was going to put it on Amazon. Somehow I get connected to a literary agent, start working with a publishing company, and it just took on a life of its own. So I really
Mhm.
trust the process with the book. It's had some unbelievable wins, like getting the holistic psychologist to write a blurb for me, having Robert Greene, my
Amazing.
absolute idol, to be on the front cover. Like those are things that happen through intuitive action that were ideas in breath work where I did organic reach outs and people felt that energy and it was really magical. I did a session recently for, I don't know if you know that show, Nobody Wants This.
Oh,
It was,
yes. Oh, I
yeah,
love
it was on
that.
Netflix. I know, so huge. So the mom, the base Erin Foster's mom in real life, I did a session with her and I gave her a
Wow.
copy of the book. And next thing I know, it's on Sarah Foster's Instagram story because she's like, my mom just dropped this off for me. So
Chills.
yeah, so unblock your purpose. I am so surrendered. I wish I could be as surrendered and as trusting as I am in the rest of my business as I am with the book. Because I'm just
Mhm.
like, I have such a pure intention of helping people and being of service and impacting them and expanding consciousness that I'm just letting it do its thing, really.
Mm.
Whereas Mastery, my company, I think because I have investors, I am so tightly controlling that one and so strategic in the business plans and the roadmaps and the systems and the outreach and if I could just bring a little bit more of this energy over here, and then maybe this energy over here because it needs a little bit more guidance and structure, I'd probably be a little bit more balanced. But ultimately, I have a coaching business that I really love. I certify people to become hypno breathwork instructors. I have a Bali retreat, which is where it all started for me, but I infuse it with luxury and body workers and energy healers and spa treatments.
Mm.
That's going to be happening in July. And then I already submitted my second book proposal. I have another project I'm working
Wow.
on, and there's really more about speaking. So yeah, there's a lot of things going on, but I think my biggest goal is just to stay in alignment because the ego can creep in a lot.
Right.
And the socially acceptable metrics of data and revenue and sales can throw me off
Mhm.
sometimes of my mission. So right now, I'm just trying to focus on the things that light me up and enjoy the creative process and trust that I'm gonna achieve those big dreams that I have.
Yeah, I love that so much. I'll often say, if you're going to book a flight to Paris or something, you're Paris is the end goal. And sure, it's probably going to be awesome. You can get on that plane and hate the whole trip to Paris, and you're still going to get there. Or you can get on that plane and you can love that whole trip to Paris. And why not choose enjoying the journey, enjoying the process? And that sounds like exactly the path that you're on, especially you've got so many different levers happening, right? It is a challenge to balance many things. And especially when you're an ambitious woman, right? And an ambitious woman is not going to slow down or be stopped. So it's like you're up to so many things. Tell us about can you break down the difference of who is mastery for and who is getting certified in the hypno breathwork for?
So, getting certified is for someone who wants to transition from a professional career into helping other people, or for an existing coach who wants to add the most effective strategy to their tool belt. So, it's really for coaches, it's for facilitators, practitioners, people who want to host retreats, create digital courses, do corporate sessions that include breath work. And so, we have a really intensive 4-day training. It's a very immersive experience. It feels like a retreat within a training because you go through 5 hypno breathwork sessions. So nobody comes out of that unscathed or the same.
Right.
You've up-leveled your leadership. Mastery is for the everyday consumer. That is for everyone to wake up in the morning, open up the app, say, I need to be in a peak performance state. I need to deal with my indecision from last night. I need to be a more loving parent today. I need to heal my heartbreak that I haven't processed. You find the session that you need that morning, you breathe for 20 minutes, you get into the state of your highest self, and then you take action from that place. So ultimately, the coaches use mastery every day, but
Mhm.
anybody in any profession, lawyers, real estate, moms, everybody should be using the app every morning.
Beautiful. And how many training sessions do you do a year? Certification sessions, sorry.
So we have two. I'm not sure when this is going to air, but for this year, we're doing two. We have one in San Diego on May 1st through the 4th, and then we have one in Amsterdam on June 25th to 28th. And that's really exciting for me. I'm actually half Dutch. My father lives in the Netherlands. So getting to merge, and this is the beautiful part about entrepreneurship, right? I love travel. I
Mm.
love being in Europe and international destinations, and my family's there. And so getting to take my work overseas is really fun.
Yeah, and Bali and retreats and all of
And
the
then,
things.
yeah, so I'm actually going to be, I have a couple events in New York, which is still my favorite city in the world. And then I kick over to, yeah, I kick over to Amsterdam. Then I'm doing like a little mini private experience in France and then going to Bali. So that's the beautiful part when you start to really heal and do the work on yourself, then you can truly create whatever you want.
This is making me think before we wrap up. I am curious because there are so many coaches out there and facilitators and people who are trained in, say, breath work or hypnotherapy. What do you believe was the catalyst within you to say, I'm going to create my own thing? Sure, you could have been a breathwork facilitator, and I don't want to say just, but without adding on the hypnotherapy or without creating hypno breathwork. But what do you think it was within you that was like, no, I'm going to create something that my brand represents or that is a part of my brand?
Yeah, I want to say this in the most respectful way possible, but I didn't, I don't, gosh, how do I say this kindly? I just felt like there was an opportunity to optimize breath work. In my experiences, I would go to classes and then I would take over the classes. I would be like, but what was your intention? But what was your outcome? But what was the memory to that? If you tie that back, do you think that's why you're commitment phobic? Do you think that it was your fear of, and I was just like, there's a better way to do this because people aren't making sense of their experiences. I went to hundreds of classes where I saw hundreds of people and they
Mm,
were crying, they were shaking, they felt lighter, but they didn't know what the actual pattern was that they were, and they didn't know how to integrate it into their day-to-day life. And that's
mm,
what hypnosis offers. If you know how to customize sessions, if you know how to create environments, if you know how to craft your vocal cues, and if you know how to take people on a journey. So I have an extremely high standard and a meticulous way of getting people to a transformative place. And so in my training, we provide you with scripts, we provide you with vocal cues, we teach you how to make playlists, we teach you how to create environments and vulnerable, safe spaces so that everyone gets there and they know what action to take. It's not
mm.
interesting to me when someone cries in my class. That's baseline. It's interesting to me when they're like, this is what I'm filing for the trademark. This is the website I just started yesterday because I saw it in my session. These are the people, these are the four people I'm reaching out to, and I'm going to partner and I'm going to collaborate with them. And this is how I'm going to scale by 2026. That's interesting to me. I created breathwork for peak performance. Unfortunately, in order to get into a peak performance state, you have to heal. So it's a balance.
Unfortunately, yes.
So it's a balance. I just found an opportunity to create a more efficient style. And it came through in a breathwork session to trademark Hypno Breathwork. At the time, it made absolutely zero sense. I think this was like in 2020. People
Mm,
were just learning about breathwork. I was like, why would I have a nuanced style? Nobody I know even knows what breathwork is, let alone Hypno Breathwork. Why would I do that? And it made no sense to me, and I had no money at the time. I had completely drained my savings traveling around the world, learning, healing. And I took action on my intuition. And a year later, I had a 100K month from my hypno breathwork certification. And it
yeah, you
all
did.
made sense. And the dots connected. We teach you how to do breath work, but the last day of our training is all business. So
Mm,
the last day of my training is messaging, positioning, strategy, target, virtual courses, digital, online, like in person, one-on-ones, couples. We teach frameworks so that you know how to monetize your business. And then truly at the root of everything, my training is not about breath work, it's about intuition. It's
mm.
about learning how to act on your intuition. Because when you know how to act on your intuition, your relationships get better, your business grows, you make more money. And that's what I really want people to feel confident in, that self-trust and that inner knowing.
Yeah, I love that. You so clearly painted the picture. The actual thing is intuition. Oftentimes people don't think that's what they need or that's what they need to heighten or get better at. And your tool or your vehicle is the hypno breath work. And I love that you just said that about the last day being the how to do this in a business, because this is what we talk about a lot, myself and Kayla, is that we both did coach training, but they didn't teach us how to have a business as a coach. Or I did yoga teacher training, but nobody taught me how to have a business as a yoga teacher. So it was all a learning curve and experience, trial and error. Thankfully, of trial and error and lessons learned with my yoga business before I ever became a coach to understand like how to actually be a business owner. But that is a missing piece from so many certifications. Go be an EFT tapper or go be a breathwork facilitator, but to learn how to make a business out of yeah, is an above and beyond service.
If we're being really honest, I think it's because a lot of people who make money in the breathwork certifications, it's through the certification rather than through coaching breathwork. And for me, I can't emphasize this enough. So anybody who's made the leap into entrepreneurship, like you should seriously love the hell out of yourself because that is so freaking hard. It
Mm,
is so brave. It is so courageous. So just honor yourself for that already. When I made the leap and became a breathwork coach, I was very lucky with the contacts I had, and I have a very relentless New York personality. So I got myself into Remedy Place and Malibu Soho House. Immediately, I was teaching at the two hottest places in LA. I
mm,
was broke. What those venues paid me covered my Uber, barely.
right.
But because I have a very resourceful personality, thanks to my Vietnamese immigrant mother, I figured it out like you did with coaching. And I realized that you can have the intention to want to change people's lives. You can be so pure-hearted. And most people who want to become a breathwork coach, they are. But that doesn't mean that you know how to make money. And it needs pricing and packaging. You need to know how to position yourself. You need to know how you're messaging, how you're going to affect people, what your content's going to look like. And those are all things that we teach in the training because once I figured that out in like my first few months, I made back my marketing salary in my first year, and I more than doubled it in my second year as a coach. And that and the first year that I made money wasn't necessarily through my certification. It was through one-on-ones, group programs, digital courses, workshops, retreats. So you have to have been through it and done it in order to have the integrity to teach it. And so I hand over all my secrets. If people are going to come into this world, I believe in breathwork so much. I really think it can change the entire world. And I think that there's zero competition when you learn how to find your niche and your story and create your sessions in your unique way. And so I give it all away. I give people everything. I want them to really thrive and have abundant lives doing this. The training is something I'm really proud of.
Yeah, you should be. It sounds absolutely amazing. Yeah, I can't wait to look into it. I know that I would like check out your website. I'm like looking at what's happening in 2026 because I know that I can't make Europe happen in the fall. But yeah, it sounds absolutely amazing. And I think that not I think, I know there are many people listening to this looking for the thing that's going to take them to the next level, like something that they can add as an above and beyond, right? Like we can all be coaches, we can all be consultants, mentors, that sort of thing. But what's the thing that takes you and differentiates you from a competitor, for lack of a better word? But it is also something that you're going to use yourself every single day. It's a tool that it sounds like you train these business owners and coaches and stuff to go be able to give this to their clients. And the best facilitators are going to be the students, the ones who use the app and log in and do their own breath work every single day.
I love that you said that because I had the idea recently where I think it's time to turn over the training to other coaches to train. Like I have 125 certified coaches now globally, and a lot of them have also done my 12-week Unblock Your Purpose course. And there's some of them who have really excelled in this work, and I trust to now facilitate other trainers versus me facilitating the trainers.
Right.
So I think that's going to be the next direction in my business because it's also just so rewarding. Like I am so in my purpose. Like I am truly living my purpose, helping other people get in alignment with their purpose, watching them get these opportunities like that. That creates a really fulfilling life for me that I never experienced in New York. So yeah, I think that's the next level for me. And with that, it means that there's going to be a lot more opportunities to get trained in this through other coaches, just not through me.
Yeah. the train the trainer model
Yeah.
is down the road. Okay, this has been absolutely amazing. I'm so grateful that we were able to spend this time together and get to learn a little bit more about your personality. Like, I really do sense that you're going to make anything happen for yourself. And I find that really magnetic in women when they're like, get out of my way. I know what I want and I'm getting there. Nobody's stopping me. And I really love that. Why don't you tell everybody who's listening exactly where they can find you? What's up? I know you just mentioned some of these in-person experiences, but what else? Where are all the links? What do you've got going on and how can people find you?
Yeah, so you can grab my book, Unblock Your Purpose. That'll really give you the framework and the psychology and some intro sessions. You can download Mastery app on the Apple or Google Play Store. And then my website is francescasipma.com that has all of my offers and products, or follow me on Instagram at Francesca Sipma.
Okay, Francesca, we will make sure that all of that is linked there for everybody listening. If you're driving or you're busy or whatever, don't worry, it will all be linked in the show notes. Thank you so much for your time today. I so appreciate it. And I'm sure I'll see you in real life in the near future because I'll be signing up to something.
I love that. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, thanks everybody. Have a great day. Are you ready to make cash flow that feels good in your soul and your bank account? If so, the wait is over. We have done a major upgrade to our 4-week mastermind cash flow. This time around, not only are you getting to experience 4 weeks of generating more sales in your business and having a more profitable business, you're also getting invited to a special VIP 90-minute intensive for cash flow students only, where you are confidently going to walk away with how you are generating your next 6 figures in the last 6 months of 2025. Not only that, every week for 5 weeks, you're going to get live coaching with myself and Kayla. This is so rare outside of Align CEO Method. We don't ever offer this. But for those of you in cash flow, we have dialed the content, we've created more time for powerful hot seat coaching, and we cannot wait to experience alongside of you, all of you business owners out there listening, how you are going to have cash flow that feels so good in the soul, so good in the bank account, and all of the incredible impact that you are making with your audience, your community, your patients, your clients. You know you're ready for this. This time of year is incredibly powerful to get your business set up to skyrocket for the last half of 2025. So pause what you're doing right now, head over to the link in our show notes, or head to www.myalignedpurpose.com/cash. You're going to get registered right now to get on the wait list. You're going to be the very first to know when the doors open. This is a limited spots only mastermind. We've always kept it intimate in the past, and that's our intention for this round as well. You're going to get exclusive updates coming your way with behind the scenes insights. And for waitlist only, you're going to get special early bird pricing. So again, head to the link in our show notes or head to myalignedpurpose.com/cash.